Hey there, friends and enemies, JoPa here again, and with the launch of the First Descendant happening in less than a week, I figured I would share everything you need to know about the game before deciding whether it's going to be for you or not. And this is coming from somebody who has played pretty much every looter shooter that's dropped, from Destiny to Anthem to Warframe and everything in between. I also have played a bunch of the different betas that the First Descendant has had, so I'm quite familiar with the game as well. Now, first off, the game is going to be free to play, and that offers up a couple different questions. One, anybody can jump in, but that doesn't mean everybody will enjoy this game. It is a third-person looter shooter, so that is not going to appeal to every player, and there are going to be some monetization questions that I feel like they've mostly answered, but there are still some reasons to be concerned. There will be a battle pass. This looks like it's going to be the traditional $10. If you're not a fan of battle passes, that is fine, but I understand free-to-play games, they need to generate revenue in order to keep making content over the course of time. And hopefully the battle pass is worth that money. You can also pay to speed up the process. So if you didn't know, the First Descendant operates similar to Warframe, where instead of unlocking frames, you unlock characters and weapons. And to do so, you will have to gather materials, and then ultimately you craft them, and you can speed up the time that they craft for with in-game currency that you can buy with real money. Now, you'll likely also be able to actually purchase the characters with real money as well. Again, similar to Warframe if you so choose, and that will allow you to target whatever specific character you most want to play. Now, whether that's a monetization model that'll work long term remains to be seen. I think Warframe does it well in that it doesn't verge on the point of pay to win. So hopefully that is something that the First Descendant sticks to. Now, keep in mind, there was some controversy with one of the previous playtests, as there was a loot box-esque paint model where it was really frustrating for a lot of players. However, the developers listened to the community and removed this very, very quickly. And that's something that I'm most excited about with this game, is that every time we've had another playtest or beta, the developers have gathered the feedback and responded accordingly, adding new stuff, tinkering, trying to make the game better. And it really does feel like they are not only communicating consistently with us, which hopefully lasts through launch, but they're also continuously trying to improve the game and add features that are going to make it better. And that's all you can really ask for with an ongoing game of this nature, is that they're trying to do the best they possibly can. Again, the game might not appeal to every single player, but for those who are excited about the game, knowing that they are going to continue to try to make it the best possible game they can is a very exciting prospect. Now, as far as the gameplay itself, there will be 19 total descendants. These are the characters that you play as, with 14 original and then 5 ultimate descendants as well. How much better the Ultimate Descendants perform compared to the base version is going to be one of the big questions, because I think ultimately we'll get new Descendants down the line and ultimate versions of all of them. And my genuine hope, and something that I saw during the previous betas and playtests, is that different characters perform better in different types of content. So, as far as the actual gameplay goes, there's going to be these things called fields. This is the open world sections where you travel around with your character. You can go in a group or as a solo player. You can do some of the missions match made or completely solo, which is nice. And the open world does feel a little empty at times, not a lot of enemies just patrolling about. But once you get into the missions themselves, they are pretty dense with enemy activity. And some of the different types of activities are better for certain characters. And what I mean by that, there's a character called Bunny who is super fast, moves around the battlefield, tries to keep moving in order to improve her abilities. But there's also like essentially capture point missions where you have to hold down an area, which she doesn't necessarily thrive in, especially by herself. That is going to be perfect for someone like Ajax, who is a defensive tank type character. And so I really hope it encourages people to mix and match, try out different descendants. On top of just the fields, there's also going to be instance dungeons, which are the end game content or a part of it. And I really am curious to see how these are handled. We saw this a little bit in some of the playtests and what these might be, but I really hope there is interesting challenge and they take inspiration from a game like Destiny 2, for example, with their dungeons, and allow people to be able to solo them better off in a trio, but also have different mechanics, different enemy types, and ultimately bosses at the end with good rewards. They also have, with their fields, their missions, and everything, different difficulty types as well, so you can go from a easier difficulty to a harder difficulty for better rewards, which is also very nice. And even within the missions, you can tinker with some of the modifiers in order to increase your rewards as well. That brings me to my favorite content in the game that I was able to play so far, which are void intercept battles. These are massive boss fights. They call them raids, but really it's just raid bosses where you're in an arena and you're fighting this giant enemy. You have to figure out how to damage it, what the best damage type is, and it's just a lot of fun. It's chaotic. There's a lot going on. Sometimes there's a bunch of enemies floating around. Sometimes it's just the one big boss who's really trying to do its best to damage you guys as quickly as possible. And again, because of the variety in content, there's going to be different types of characters, of descendants, who are better in this activity. And I hope that plays out over the course of time, so it encourages you to unlock different characters, also different weapons. And the weapons and the mods is the next part that I'll get into, because I feel like this is going to be a rather grindy game. In order to unlock Descendants without paying any money, and weapons as well as mods and everything, you're going to have to grind the game a bit. It is going to be a looter shooter where you are going to repeat content, and ultimately that's not going to appeal for everybody. But if you want the perfect build, it's going to take some good RNG and also a bit of blowing through content trying to farm the thing that you want. Now, the weapons are pretty varied. There's a lot of different options. There's a lot of mods to affect that. The mods affect your melee as well. So there is quite a bit of customization, which I'm looking forward to, and hopefully allowing your build to really feel like your own. Every time I've played the playtests, the characters feel very different from each other, but my bunny might feel similar to somebody else's bunny, and I hope that changes. Like Warframe, where you can have a variety of different mods added to your character to really customize the playstyle that you're looking for. Now, as far as the story goes, it feels like it's going to be a pretty straightforward sci-fi affair with a big boss who is trying to destroy you and your world while you are fighting off his hordes of fiends and also trying to take them down ultimately. Now, how far we progress into the story once the game does launch remains to be seen. What they tease for the future as well, because it does feel like they want to set this game up for a long-term objective, just like something like Warframe, which has improved and iterated and added new content over the course of time. That's the hope with the First Descendant, and I really look forward to seeing how they're going to handle that ultimately. Other than that, definitely check out some gameplay if you are on the fence. This is, again, a game that I think is very fun to play. The combat feels good. The movement feels good. The characters all feel unique and add a bunch of variety to the game. So I'm really looking forward to getting hands-on with as many of them as possible, making different builds and trying out different content to see how much there is. Because judging based on the previous betas, there's going to be a healthy amount of content, especially knowing that there's 5 new areas, but the hope is that it's varied enough to keep people engaged, because that's one of the major problems that people have had as we played in the past, is that the game feels like it is a bit repetitive, even more so than a game like Destiny or Warframe, which could be a bit of an issue. But for me personally, we are far enough out from Destiny 2, The Final Shape, and Warframe's latest update, so now I can really dive into this and concentrate fully on the First Descendant, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's a game that will be a lot of fun as long as you go in with the right expectations, as long as you want to understand what is in store for you with this game. Let me know in the comments if you played the game in the past, who your favorite Descendant is so far. Personally, I know a lot of people like Bunny but Valby is very, very good, and I just like the variety in the game and how different the characters feel. So anyway, let me know in the comments down below. My name is Jope. If you want to see more of the First Descendant content from me going forward, like the video, subscribe to the channel, helps me out tremendously, shows you want to see more content like this going forward. Have a good one. I'll catch you all later.